Matthew chapter 16. The demand for a miracle. Some Pharisees and Sadducees came to Jesus. They wanted to trap him, so they asked him to perform a miracle for them, to show God's approval. But Jesus answered, "When the sun is setting, you say, 'We are going to have fine weather, because the sky is red.' And early in the morning you say, 'It is going to rain, because the sky is red and dark.' You can predict the weather by looking at the sky, but you cannot interpret the signs concerning these days. How evil and godless are the people of this day. You ask me for a miracle. No, the only miracle you will be given is the miracle of Jonah." So he left them and went away. The yeast and the Pharisees and Sadducees. When the disciples crossed over to the other side of the lake, they forgot to take their bread. Jesus said to them, "Look out and be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees." They started discussing among themselves, "He says this because we didn't bring any bread." Jesus knew what they were saying, so he asked them, "Why are you discussing among yourselves about not having any bread? How little faith you have! Don't you understand yet? Don't you remember when I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000 men? How many baskets did you fill? And what about the 7 loaves for the 4,000 men? How many baskets did you fill? How is it that you don't remember and understand what I was talking to you about, bread? Guard yourselves from the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees." Then the disciples understood that he was not telling them to guard themselves from the yeast used in bread, but from the teachings of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Peter's declaration about Jesus. Jesus went to the territory near the town of Caesarea Philippi when he asked his disciples, "Who do men say the Son of Man is?" "Some say John the Baptist," they answered. "Others say Elijah, while others say Jeremiah or some other prophet." "What about you?" he asked them. Who do you say I am?" Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." "Good for you, Simon, son of John," answered Jesus, "because this truth did not come to you from any human being, but it was given to you directly by my Father in heaven. And so I tell you, you are a rock, Peter, and on this rock foundation I will build my church, which not even death will ever be able to overcome. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. What you prohibit on earth will be prohibited in heaven. What you permit on earth will be permitted in heaven." Then Jesus ordered his disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. Jesus speaks about his suffering and death. From that time on, Jesus began to say plainly to his disciples, "I must go to Jerusalem and suffer much from the elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law. I will be put to death, and on the 3rd day I will be raised to life." Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. "God forbid it, Lord," he said. "This must never happen to you." Jesus turned around and said to Peter, "Get away from me, Satan. You are an obstacle in my way, because these thoughts of yours are men's thoughts, not God's." Then Jesus said to his disciples, "If anyone wants to come with me, he must forget himself, carry his cross, and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Will a man gain anything if he wins the whole world, but loses his life? Of course not. There is nothing a man can give to regain his life. For the Son of Man is about to come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he will repay everyone according to his deeds. Remember this. There are some here who will not die until they have seen the Son of Man come as King." The Transfiguration. Matthew chapter 17. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and the brothers James and John, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. As they looked on, a change came over him. His face became as bright as the sun, and his clothes as white as light. Then the 3 disciples saw Moses and Elijah talking with Jesus. So Peter spoke up and said to Jesus, "Lord, it is a good thing that we are here. If you wish, I will make 3 tents here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." While he was still talking, a shining cloud came over them, and a voice said from the cloud, "This is my own dear Son, with whom I am very well pleased. Listen to him." When the disciples heard the voice, they were so terrified that they threw themselves face down to the ground. Jesus came to them and touched them. "Get up," he said. "Don't be afraid." So they looked up and saw no one except Jesus. As they came down the mountain, Jesus ordered them, "Don't tell anyone about this vision you have seen until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead." Then the disciples asked Jesus, "Why do the teachers of the law say that Elijah has to come first?" "Elijah does indeed come first," answered Jesus, "and he will get everything ready. But I tell you this, Elijah has already come, and people did not recognize him, but treated him just as they pleased. In the same way, the Son of Man will also be mistreated by them." Then the disciples understood that he was talking to them about John the Baptist. Jesus heals a boy with a demon. When they returned to the crowd, a man came to Jesus, knelt before him. He said, "Sir, have mercy on my son. He is epileptic and has such terrible fits that he often falls in the fire or in the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they could not heal him." Jesus answered, "How unbelieving and wrong you people are. How long must I stay with you? How long do I have to put up with you? Bring the boy here to me." Jesus commanded the demon, and it went out. So the boy was healed at that very moment. Then the disciples came to Jesus in private and asked him, "Why couldn't we drive the demon out?" "It was because you did not have enough faith," answered Jesus. "Remember this, if you have faith as big as a mustard seed, you can say to this hill, 'Go from here to there,' and it will go." You could do anything, but only prayer and fasting can drive this kind out. Nothing else can. Jesus speaks about his death. When the disciples all came together in Galilee, Jesus said to them, "The Son of Man is about to be handed over to men who will kill him, but on the 3rd day he will be raised to life." The disciples became very sad. Payment of the temple tax. When Jesus and his disciples came to Capernaum, the collectors of the temple tax came to Peter and asked, "Does your teacher pay the temple tax?" "Of course," Peter answered. When Peter went into the house, Jesus spoke up first. "Simon, what is your opinion? Who pays duties or taxes to the kings of this world? The citizens of the country or the foreigners?" "The foreigners," answered Peter. "Well then," replied Jesus, "that means that the citizens don't have to pay. But we don't want to offend these people, so go to the lake and drop in a line. Pull up the first fish you hook, and in its mouth you will find a coin worth enough for my temple tax and yours. Take it and pay them our taxes."